Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night Podcast, a podcast about tabletop games, but mostly board games. I'm your host, Roy Canny, and with me, as always, is Matt.
I mean, maybe this time.
Maybe. And Rob.
Oh,
Yes.
John Cena.
Bringing it back.
Quality.
Bringing it back. How you guys doing?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, having a little bit of deja vu, though.
Hey, I was just telling this to Matt during the break. I had Funyuns the other day for, the first time in, years.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot how good they were. Have you ever had that where, for no particular reason, you haven't eaten a snack or something in a while, and then it comes across you, and you try it, and you're like, why did that not come back in my life sooner?
The other day, I had, some Funyuns and sweet tea.
Yeah.
From Walmart. I'm not sure if I can get any worse than that,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But it brought me back. I was like, wow, it's been a long time since I've had Funyuns. Yeah, they were not bad.
Funyuns endorsed by Rob.
Today
No, I
I learned how
wouldn't-
the reinvestment of stock options in Disney works.
You did what?
I learned how the reinvestment of stock options in the Disney company worked.
Oh, you didn't invest any because I was like, oh my, that's an expensive stock.
It is. It's I think it was 92 something when I was looking at it.
Yeah, that's one of those you wanted to be on the ground floor,
Before they bought Marvel.
or
And
even
Star Wars.
oh my goodness, yeah,
Or anything.
Earlier.
yeah.
It's fine.
Also,
You know what? You should have bought stock on Twitter.
Hmm.
Did you hear about that? It was selling for pennies before it opened, and then the day that it opened, it went over 5,000%. It ended up selling. I think the top dollar was $51 a share for Twitter stock by the end of the day. And the people that bought thousands at the beginning made out like bandits because you bought a stock for let's say 10 cents, and then that stock 8 hours later is worth $50, and you bought thousands of those. You're buying all the board games you want. How are you doing? You're the Asmodee of the stock people. You're
That's
doing
awesome.
fine.
well, tonight our topic is about becoming
Brexit.
the betrayer.
Oh.
But before we talk about that, we're going to first talk about some news stuff. So first thing on the docket here is the Tiny Epic Galaxies Beyond the Black expansion. This is an expansion currently on Kickstarter. It adds several different things that look pretty interesting. It adds pilots, and it adds some new ship meeple token things. It adds exploration cards and an exploration mat and new planet cards, which they had in the original, and then more secret missions for some variety, probably having to do with some more of the expansion stuff here. But it looks pretty cool overall if you're into the Tiny Epic Galaxies stuff. Have you guys looked at this?
I saw some pictures of the Kickstarter. I haven't looked into it too much, but I like the new ships and the way that they looked.
Yeah.
And we played Tiny Epic Galaxies several times now. And besides Tiny Epic Kingdoms, I would say it's probably my favorite.
Uh-huh.
I just like the whole fantasy theme of Kingdoms,
Right.
but I like the gameplay of Galaxies. And so, and plus, we got that playmat from the guys because we did some shows with them. And there was some stuff on the playmat that hadn't come out yet.
I
the
think
super
it
weapons
was
and
actually
stuff.
a Kickstarter thing.
Well, hopefully
like
it'll
the
come out with this
weapons.
Kickstarter, as part of that as well.
I see
So
they have some extra stuff, but I don't see anything about super weapons on here. Gonna have to talk to somebody about that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks pretty cool overall. I mean, just adding more stuff to an already pretty awesome game. The thing I love about these Tiny Epic Galaxy games, because I've talked to some people and they're like, I like the Tiny Epic games, but I just wish they weren't so small. The thing that I love about these games is that they're so tiny and they're so affordable. Where else are you gonna get that solid of a game for $20? You know, it's ridiculous. You get a huge game in this tiny little box, which is fun. Especially if you're going on a trip or for traveling, it's something you can just throw in your luggage super easy. Let's see what's. Yeah, so
what's what?
this expansion is $24 plus shipping, so it's not too bad. Not too bad at all.
But that's what's so great about Game One Games is they make a fantastic game affordable to the public.
Yeah.
And it's going to be under 13 ounces. If you don't know what that means, listen back to our podcast with Game on Games because
Yeah,
the
we
shipping
had
costs go up.
Michael Coe on there. He is like the master of figuring out how to like min max. Like he makes a like Euro game out of figuring out how to fit all the things in the box and make it as economical for like shipping and everything as possible. And like that helps the customer out on the ends on the return end because it's less expensive for them. So I thought that was really cool when he was talking about all that and like trying to like weigh every single component and figuring out exactly what components they could fit in the box and figuring out what exactly is 100% necessary for the game. And they still manage to like bling it out pretty hardcore too, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, so if you're interested in a space dice action game and the expansion for it, check out this Tiny Epic Galaxies Beyond the Black Kickstarter. The next thing on our news is like crazy huge news, which I think we saw a little bit of this
Sort
coming.
of, though.
Yeah, we saw a
Sort
little
of.
bit of this coming out of Gen Con, but just the amount of games that this is going to like put on the shelf / like make unavailable. Fantasy Flight Games is they're ending their partnership with Games Workshop. And I'm not sure whether Games Workshop ended it with Fantasy Flight or Fantasy Flight ended it with Games Workshop. Fantasy Flight put out a press release thing saying that they did tons of great games with Games Workshop and they loved working with them and all this stuff, but it's really hard to tell which side actually broke the agreement and decided to stop making games. But there's a lot of solid games that are basically going to be out of print. And some of them will probably like never come back into print because I mean both companies kind of own the rights to it, and if they're not really in negotiation, there's no way that either of those companies can make those games. Some of these will obviously probably be back around, but things like Chaos in the Old World is probably never going to come back out unless they retheme it somehow.
Yeah.
And then like Forbidden Stars is a brand new game that Games Workshop owns the license to, and Fantasy Flight Games owns the mechanics to. So I was always hoping that there would be like an expansion for that to add Necrons or add some more crazy stuff to it. But
I think that's what's the worst part of this
Yeah.
for me is definitely that, because like the game is a good game. The only downside of the game that I really have is the combat that takes forever for the combat. But it is a good game, and the components are great, and the board, like the space artwork and everything, super cool. And I love that whole like ion storm happening in space, and it kind of makes walls where there aren't walls and stuff.
And the players get to choose like how that goes. So like
Yeah.
if you end up being able to do that first, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna do this so they can't get through here.
Yeah, you can almost like protect yourself, because I think there's only one faction that has the ability to go through those or something like that,
Yeah.
at least starting off. But I'm not surprised this happened at the same time,
Right.
because you have to think like with Asmodee, all their acquisitions that they're having of companies, it probably came down to like a financing number thing, and they're going to be able to get a higher ROI, which is return of investment, on some of these other companies compared to they were to Game Workshop, and so they just didn't renew their lease because they've made a lot of games with them.
So you think the
It was business.
the like licensing fees were too high on the games that they made with Games Workshop?
I think so, because that contract with them is probably a 3 to 5 year contract.
Right.
I mean, because
been
to
working-
create this stuff, yeah, they got to work for a while,
They've been
and then
working,
it comes out.
They've been working with Games Workshop since like forever, like for a really long time. Since Fantasy Flight was like definitely not the behemoth that they are now.
Well, and look at
So-
the past 2 years of Asmodee and Fantasy Flight. They've acquired a lot of new companies.
Right.
And so I imagine they're probably getting better returns. Or even if they're not getting better returns, they may not be making as much with Games Workshop to put that money forward again, where they can
Gotcha.
use it to possibly buy another company. So
It's still kind of interesting because some of these games are like fresh. Like Fury of Dracula is one of the games on this list, and that game just came out. They just made a new edition.
well,
for it.
last year it came out, and it's also the 3rd edition.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I think the biggest one hurt by this is Forbidden Stars, because that's a new IP. It's not a reprint or anything. You know,
It's not new IP, but a brand new game. Yeah.
well, I mean, yeah, sorry, brand new game, not new IP, but brand new game, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's hurt the most. And but I'm also partly excited for this.
might open them up to make some more interesting stuff.
To make a brand new IP.
Yeah.
Like, quit Warhammer, quit Star Wars,
make
quit
some more
Battlelore.
Twilight Imperium stuff. No, just kidding.
Yeah, because Christian Peterson, as long as I'm the CEO of whatever my company's called today, I'm going to make this game. And, hey, I like the guy. I respect the man. He started off making French comic books because that's a big thing. And look what Fantasy Flight is today. Like, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But, like, we love his games to do something. I'm just excited for Fantasy Flight to come out with new original content. Continue the Game of Thrones. It's hot. Make money while you can. Continue some of this other stuff. But come out with some new stuff. Like, come on, let's see those creative juices going. They have so many designers now and so many people together. Like, if us three together can put our heads together and make the best sumo game and the best murder game ever, Fantasy Flight should be able to, because I'm going to let you guys know now. You want to invest in some stock. Epic Gaming Night stock, when those games come out, are going to be through the roof.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go through the list real quick of the games, and you guys tell me if there's anything that you find like that you didn't know was on there or anything. Black Crusade, Blood Bowl Team Manager, Chaos in the Old World, Chaos Marauders, Dark Heresy 2nd Edition, which are like their role-playing games, I think. Death Watch, Forbidden Stars, Fury of Dracula, Only War, Relic, Rogue Trader, Space Hulk, Death Angel, Talisman, Warhammer Disc Wars, Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing, Warhammer Invasion the card game, Warhammer Quest the adventure card game, which is another like brand new game, and then Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. It's a lot of, I mean, there's some solid games in there too, so it's like...
That Heresy game is actually not an RPG game, if it's the one that I'm thinking of, but it was...
Horus Heresy is. I think the Dark Heresy is like their role-playing system.
Yeah, but it's actually like a board game. Like one of the Heresies is actual board game.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But nothing, I wasn't a big fan and never wanted to buy the Disc War stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't appeal to me.
I feel like it just fell off as soon as it came for me. I mean, I don't know.
And, yeah, well, I mean,
I know there was a lot of people playing
gaming
Conquest and stuff like that, and that's an Eric Lang LCG design.
Yeah.
It's going away.
But Eric's doing just fine now. The stuff he's doing, I mean, Eric is doing okay. Nothing is really like... I'm not freaking out about anything.
The Warhammer Quest adventure card game, I know our friend of the show, Mark Streed, was saying how he loved that game and he thought the game was amazing. And I know there was a couple of like mini like character expansions that came out for it, but an adventure card game that doesn't have like real expansions, there's not that much going on for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of cool games that if you are interested in these games, you better try to find them as soon as possible, because
they're
going to be gone. Basically, all the stock... It's probably too late. Basically, all the stock of all the stuff online is just, like, gone already. Like, if you try to look for Forbidden Stars, it's sold out. They probably still have stuff at the distributor level. So, like, they'll probably restock some of that stuff. But, it's like the prices on eBay for this stuff is already just, like, going up just because you're not going to be able to get it. So... Not to add on to that hype train, but you know.
But don't buy it.
You know.
Like, is there any game out there, Roy or Matt, that you guys heard that like just like oh man, I should look into that or anything like that?
It's interesting because a lot of these people that are buying up all these games are the people that are like speculating on how the market's going to be after it's out of print and no longer available. So
there are so many great games that come out now on a regular basis.
For real. Don't spend hundreds of dollars on this one game.
That could be worth something.
Comparatively, you could just play the stock market.
Exactly. Yeah. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
And probably have a better return because the field for the stock market is a lot larger than the field for used board games.
Right.
Yeah.
Another random thing in news that you didn't put down. The first week for the Draft Mechanics tabletop board game Draft League came in. And unsurprisingly.
So we hadn't even talked about this on the podcast at all. So our friends over at Draft Mechanic, which is another podcast, which is based in Charlotte, Danielle and Jake, really cool people. Make sure to check out their podcast if you like Board Games and Beer, they invited us to be on this draft that they were doing for board games. And Matt, can you go through a little bit about how that works?
Well, sure. So, I mean, basically, it's just like a regular sports team draft, but instead of drafting players for your footballs or your baseballs, you would end up with board games instead. So we went through, and I believe there are... I don't remember how many of us there are. There's an odd number because we have to fight a random automaton of averages. Spoiler alert, I'm going to lose to that thing hard.
Wow.
Me too. It's rough. But so we went through and we were just picking games that we would think would suit our team lineup the best. The rules of it were we had to pick one game that was a Euro game, one dexterity game, one card game, one game that was weighted 4+ on BGG, and there's another. Wasn't there another?
Dexterity,
I feel like there were 5.
Euro, Gateway.
Gateway. I didn't say Gateway.
Oh yeah, Gateway.
Yeah. So you had to have those, and then you get an additional 5, and then 3 backups for your league. So we went through, picked 13 different games apiece.
There's a YouTube video about this, like showing the whole process of doing it on Draft Mechanics YouTube channel.
It's pretty good, pretty fun. There's some random talks about Happy Salmon and kids. It's pretty all right. I mean, not what was talked about, but the conversation was okay.
Yeah.
The scoring, the way it works is it's based off the number. I think you get points assigned based off how many plays get ranked on BGG, the amount of points up or down the score ticks for the rating on BGG. And then there's like a fan vote that's going on. So if you head over to Draft Mechanics website, you can vote on whose lineup you like, and then that will add some additive points to potentially help out your favorite team.
So what was
or
the
your
name
favorite
of your,
list of games.
What was the name of your team, Matt, and what was like some of the valuable board games you think that you got on there?
So my team name was the Grecan Economy. Since Rob couldn't be there, had to try to plug our stuff as much as possible.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Not a problem. Valuable games? Who?
You stole a few games out from under me. That I mean, I guess just because we're like in the same circles or the same mindset.
To be
like,
fair,
I'm like,
some of the games
I got some of the games I wanted, even though they might not have been good. It's probably still the ones I wanted.
Some of the games that I stole from you, I've never even played. Like I don't like
we
games
got
that
Mage
I'm
Knight,
thinking.
and I feel like that's a solid game just because so many people play it solo. So it's like if somebody can solo it, it's probably just going to get more plays just because people are lonely.
Yeah. And I think, let's see, I picked Ennis because it was new, and Trevor really seemed to like it, so I figured maybe it will kind of catch on. I don't think it has like a big distribution release yet because I don't think it comes out until Essen, right? I don't know.
Yes.
And then I got Junk Art first pick because, that game is ballin'.
That game is ballin'.
I don't know that people will rank plays of Junk Art because one day... It's literally like 5 minutes of play.
I should have recorded all of our plays that we played the other day because you know how many, like if you record every single play, like that's a lot of plays.
Can you go and do that in backlog?
I mean,
on
sort
Board
of,
Game
but I
Geek you
think
can. You just pick the date or whatever. So,
But you don't want a backlog though because it's not going to do the past week. So you want to.
Yeah.
That's going to help Matt out, not me.
Yeah.
My team's name was Dustin's Teeth because, like Dustin's Teeth, my strategy for this whole thing was non-existent.
Speaking of which, I saw a video today with all the Stranger Things kids like hanging out with like 80s toys like Furbies and Pop Rocks and stuff.
Dude, I need to watch
and
that. That sounds
his
amazing.
teeth came in, and I was like, oh.
No.
He has
I think
fake
they're
ones.
fake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That still explains the lisp.
Yep. But yeah, he's awesome. Like my favorite character in that show by far. But I also said that because they were making us pick like mascots and stuff like that. So my mascot was the compass because everybody should learn more about compasses.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. I had fun. I drafted just like games that I liked. That was my strategy for this. Like a lot of these guys were like Euro style players and stuff like that. So they were like going in and be like, okay, what's the most plays for this weekend? Okay, this is a really good game and all this stuff. Like they were going hardcore. Like mine, I was like, I like Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Picking Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. I like Star Trek Ascendancy. Picking Star Trek Ascendancy. So I just picked a bunch of games that like I liked. I picked Twilight Imperium and people were like, Twilight Imperium's not going to have many plays. It's going to be terrible. I'm like, but I love that game. I just picked it because it needed to be on my team.
I think it's interesting because Star Realms got a lot of points in the first week entirely because they came out with the Star Realms app.
Well, they've had an app for it for a while, but people are logging their plays from the app. So.
And it's like, oh man, I did not think of that.
Yeah, Codenames is also one that's really good because we did not get. I think Codenames was one of the first picks. I think that's what Daniel picked first.
It was second. First pick was
Scythe. Would have been one of my top picks actually.
It was on my list too, like really high. Immediately when it was picked, like some of these games are really funny because immediately when it was picked, everybody just groaned. They're like, "Oh man."
It was. I don't know. The draft was a lot of fun. I don't think I'm going to do very well. I think points-wise,
terrible, but you know.
Points-wise, this week I think I'm third from the bottom in the entire group. Like literally, the average machine is going to destroy me, but it's okay. It was a lot of fun. Everything's fine.
Just like the Grecan economy.
No, everything is not fine with the Grecan economy.
You're doing terribly in the draft.
Neither my team. Maybe I should actually look at the points and like maybe swap out some of my alternates for not this week, but the next week that comes up. But who knows?
Good times. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm sorry I missed it.
We should probably get into what we've been playing. So since we've talked all about that, Rob, what have you been up to?
Man, I have been playing Mansions of Madness, and it's making me want to buy freaking Descent because of the new app. Like I it's crazy. I'm gonna get into Mansions of Madness in just a second, but if you listen to the show, you know the mechanics, you know how the game plays, so I don't have to get into all that. But this app thing is stupid awesome. Yeah. It is like ridiculously fun. And I just added like 8 expansions and the base game of Descent onto my Amazon must-buy list. So I imagine before the year's out...
I just really want to hold out until Imperial Assault stuff comes out. I
already have Imperial Assault stuff. Like I already have a couple... I don't have everything, but I have the game, and I have several small expansions. I don't have any of the 2 big expansions, but like...
Fantasy Flight also just announced like 10 more like scenarios for that app too. Like,
for which one?
Yesterday. The Road to Legend. The app for Descent. So they're like, hey, now for every single expansion, there's going to be another scenario.
Yes, it was because I downloaded the app already on my phone so I could look at it, and super cool. So anyway, so I played Mansions of Madness with some friends outside of our gaming group, and I played the scenario Escape from Innsmouth, and long story short, you are a stranger in this creepy town. And the people that creepy town don't like that you're there.
Have you ever read the book Shadow over Innsmouth or anything?
I have not, but if it's anything like this scenario, I don't want to read it. Bro, the game scenario, I'm not gonna lie, like freaked me out a little bit. Cause like my buddy, he has Google Chromecast on his TV, and so we had the game thing displayed on his big. It wasn't too big, but it was 42-inch screen TV right over where we're playing. And so the music was turned up, the lights were off. It was like, bro, why don't you turn on a nightlight or something? Like, come on, man! Like this is not cool.
It's like one of those Pixar lamps shining down on the board, and you're like, great, this is wonderful.
Yeah, you start off like right in front of a hotel, and you get to the town like right at 6 o'clock, and you notice as you're walking to the hotel, everybody's boarding up their stuff and like running inside, and you're like. That's weird. It's only 6 o'clock. And then you go into your room. You get at the hotel room, and the hotel only has 2 rooms. You get a room in the back corner, and the way the scenario starts is all of a sudden your door in your room starts to rattle. What do you do? And so that's how we started. And we're like, all right, this is really freaky. Like, because you took a boat and the boat got lost or something in the fog or something, and so they docked there, and then the boat left. After it dropped you off, the boat left. It's like the boat knew, like, yeah, I'm not staying in. And I won't get into too much, but I will say this. The new creature, and they're not new, but they're new in this edition. The Riot people?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh! So, Matt, the people of Innsmouth, they go crazy. Long story short. I won't spoil too much, but they go crazy, and they start forming riots. And that's one of the new monsters in the second edition. And you know when you play with the app, it tells you the health of the creature in the upper left-hand corner. Like when you look at the creature on the app, it has a heart. Guess what the health is for the riot. Just for this particular one. Because there was another riot that didn't have as much health. But guess the particular health of this riot.
I don't know. Typically, like 8's a lot in that. So, like, we'll go 12 or something.
86.
Okay. So basically, you can't beat it.
It's a wall.
It is
run from it.
Oh, and this riot, it gets to move 2 spaces. It automatically does 2 damage to anybody that it walks through. Then if it lands on you, then it attacks you again.
How hard is it to escape from?
We never gave it an opportunity. We did everything we could. Once the health came up, I was like, no, because I was playing with Steven. You remember Steven?
Yeah.
And he had a 2x4. He was like, man, I'm going to go beat up the riot. I'm going to go beat it up. Because he just beat up like this fish guy in the lobby, and the riot came up. And I said, all right, before you go attack the riot, let's check the health. Because he was a space away. And we saw 86, and he was like, nah. So we used all of our actions to run away. We were just running and running. We barely lost. There was one thing we didn't search for, and we needed the foghorn. We found all the clues, we found everything, but we found this one boat that would come in and help us. And we
so
didn't
many
have
spoilers, Rob.
Sorry, I know I
play
keep
the
saying it, but then I
scenario.
get excited and talk about it. But so much fun. I love the app. I already love Mansions of Madness anyway. For those of you that don't have it, so worth it. And I know it's an expensive game, but to me it's so worth it. Just the stories alone that I've gotten from that play group and our play group when we played together. And just like the feeling and the emotion and everything that it offers and the quality of the game, the app sells it for me. It really, really does. The app is so good, it's making me want to buy other games.
I think this game is like super solid. I got a copy of it on Thursday.
And you played every scenario.
I played it Thursday night, and I like live streamed it. So if you look at our YouTube channel, you can see like a stream of me playing through it. I'm not gonna spoil how that ended, but I played through the game, and then Friday we played it on game night. Then Saturday I played through the long scenario, and then Sunday I played through the first scenario again, just because I wanted to keep playing this game. But I didn't want to play like new stuff because I didn't want to spoil it all, because I wanted to play it like with a group. But it's interesting because like the maps can be different. You'll find different items. Like the story is the same, but how that story unfolds is not always exactly the same. So it's like, oh well, this is like the main plot, but like sometimes there'll be a different room and you have to do like a different thing or get a different puzzle, or maybe it's just set up a little bit different, or maybe this thing used to be here but now it's over there. So it keeps you on your toes when you replay the app. So the replayability is like, it gives me like a Time Stories type feel of like running around trying to do things, but there's a lot more like combat-y type stuff in this game than there is in Time Stories. It actually feels like combat. In Time Stories, it always felt like you're just doing like skill checks for combat. This is like, I got my gun and I got this thing and I'm doing this to re-roll this thing or whatever. So it feels kind of cool being able to upgrade your character with the items. But I played through I think it's like the Rising Tide scenario.
Is that
the 4 to 6 hour scenario?
So how was that?
It was intense. Like, I played it solo, so I only had 2 characters, so I was playing both of the 2 characters. And I don't know how different it would be with more characters, because with only 2 characters, like, it's so long, and it has to keep you from dying for, like, so long, so there's not a whole lot of, like, confrontation, like, at least in, like, majority of it. It's just all, like, exploring and trying to figure out stuff. It's all about the mystery of trying to figure out who the cultists are. For the scenario.
Does the game tell you as a single player game to pick 2 characters, or did you just do that on your own?
You have to pick at least 2 characters to play the game.
Got it.
So when you're playing solo, you control 2 different characters. So it's only balanced all the way down to owning 2 by yourself. But I play with both the characters, and we're doing all the different stuff and things like that. And it was fun because like I found so many items and so much stuff. But it was all about exploring the map and trying to figure out information was mostly what that scenario was about. And then it all comes to like a climax at the end. But
what about the map? How big did the map get? That's what I'm
so
interested
basically in this scenario there are 4 different maps. So basically there'll be like a nighttime, and after a certain amount of turns it says, okay, it's nighttime, take up all the map. Then you start in another area, rebuild a map from here and explore a new map. So basically you were going around different locations, and there was actually opportunities for you to go back to previous locations, so you're rebuilding a map you built before. And it's kind of super interesting because the map could still be random when you play the map again, so it might be slightly different, or like the outcome of like who you're trying to figure out things about could be different, because it's very like, I don't want to say clue-ish, but it's a little bit clue-ish, like who's the thing that did this thing, and it could be different each time you play the game, and there could be clues hidden in different areas to point to different people each time you play the game. So it definitely seemed very interesting when I played it. It was super exciting. I wish there was a little bit more combat in it, but I totally understand why there isn't, because you've got to last like 6 hours of gameplay without your characters dying, and the easiest way for your character to die is to just get into a little bit of combat. They start to go insane and start to lose health real quick. So I had all these cool weapons and things like that like when I got to the end, I'm like, let's do this, time to go. So it was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Rising Tides is fun. I don't know how well it would play with lots of people, because it would just take longer to play with more people, because it took a while for me to play when I'm just like reading everything real fast. I'm not reading anything out loud or anything like crazy. I'm like doing it all myself.
Yeah, I would say add an hour to the scenario, whatever the app says, because when we did the first scenario, it said 60 to 90 minutes, and we were 2.5 hours in when we lost.
I mean, the fact that like the best way to play this game is like each time the scenario gives you a thing to like read it out loud for everybody, to get everyone in the theme of everything. I think that adds to like the time, but it also adds to like the game. Like how story driven this game is what makes it so awesome.
Did you use the backpack a lot and like present all the clues and stuff like that?
What do you mean?
So when you find stuff in the game, like when you search a certain
you
thing,
can actually like activate the item or whatever.
Well, you go to the backpack, and the backpack's not going to show you every single item that you found, but the app remembers the items that you found because it tells you what to get out. And then you can click on the backpack, and it'll tell you, keep searching for stuff to find more incriminating evidence.
Right.
And so we got to a point...
It depends on the scenario you're playing. Like certain scenarios, like there were specific things where you'd go into the backpack, you click on the thing, and you'd activate it, and it'd give you some text to read, and it'd be like, you can activate more to look more. And then you do that, and it's like, oh, you find this ripped up page or something, and it's like, activate this puzzle to put the page together. There's like all sorts of awesome things in this app. Yeah. So it was definitely pretty interesting. But yeah, that is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition.
So great.
Matt, what about you?
Well, I didn't play anything last week, but the week before, played a bunch of different stuff. So played Champions of Midgard for the first time. Good game. Like it. It's probably one of my favorite worker placements.
I'm pretty sure he's my favorite worker placement for sure.
I was talking to Trevor. I was just saying I wish there was like a mechanic that Lords of Waterdeep had that I really kind of wish Champions of Midgard had, was like Lords of Waterdeep, you could see a building that you liked and then buy it and then put it out, and then you would expand the city that way. And I think it'd be cool if Champions had something similar, like clearly not nearly as big as like what Lords of Waterdeep had, but something similar where you could be like, and I upgrade the, the
Viking village.
Yeah, it's like, or if you could like upgrade the market to where it's like this one thing gives more wood, or if anytime somebody uses it, you get something back. I think that'd be kind of neat.
I think it just has random random tiles you put out that make the game different from time to time, but you start with those buildings in play. Yeah.
I just wish there was a way to kind of make them better, because some of them seemed a little underpowered. Gotcha. But good game. Well, we also played Junkart, more than just the Montreal scenario. We played a bunch of different ones. They are all equally as fun as Montreal, if not a little bit more, some of them. So
really?
Yeah, they're really good. Mm-hmm. Well, it's more is really hard to say, but I
I
feel
really
like you
enjoyed the one where you would keep a card for yourself and then pass it to the guys on both sides.
yeah, to the adjacent ones. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Um,
Because I can actually build good for myself.
yeah, there's not
Which
like
normally I don't do.
there's not as much tension as like Montreal is, because Montreal is just like, okay, cool, here you go. You've inherited something that's held together by hope, I guess.
A fool's hope at
and
that.
give it a go. And so you're like, okay. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the other scenarios we were playing, we didn't play any of the cooperative ones. We just played still the competitive ones, but the ones we played some of the ones that were like time attack ones where you have 10 cards and you have to flip them over one at a time and place the things as fast as you possibly can. And when you're out of cards, that ends. Yeah, that one's probably one of the weaker ones, but it's still a ton of fun because you're trying to build the tallest tower, and the first person who runs out of cards, it doesn't matter if they just didn't have a tower built. Like if there were just 2 things on their blocks because everything else fell off, they'd still trigger like the stop condition, kind of like how Robo Rally does.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of good fun. And then the other game we played was a game that was strictly called Luchador! Exclamation point. And the game itself, very, very basic. You just have a luchador character. He has sort of special moves that you can do by rolling a certain combination of dice. But everything in this game is dice, so you just get a handful of dice and you roll them. And then based off what you roll, you can say, okay, well, I have this many blocks, this many attacks, yada, yada, yada. It's really fast-paced. It's really fun. Probably the neatest thing about the game is it has a cardboard wrestling like mat arena that has like the little bands that go around it that fully set up, and you have like little cardboard standees that you can put up for your characters and stuff, and that's like really cool. And you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And then whenever you're done playing in the ring, you flip it over and it becomes a cage match. And it's just, the board's really neat. I don't know what the MSRP on it is. It's just a fun little dice rolling game if you just kind of want to get in. It plays really well with 2 people because you can just kind of go roll. What did I get? What did you get? Okay, I have 2 hits, so I have to roll the die for hits, yada yada, so on and so forth. It goes really fast. You can kind of end up with some interesting stuff. There are ways to hurt yourself and hit people with tables and stuff. It's pretty neat, fast, frenetic, kind of random dice game. Very lightweight.
Nice.
Yeah.
As long as it's frenetic, I'm okay to play it. I don't play non-frenetic games.
It's awesome.
Didn't know if you knew that about it.
Good to know.
Well, for me, the game that I really want to talk about is Star Trek Ascendancy. So I've actually gotten to play this a couple times. I played it once with 3 players, and then we played once with 2 players, which is kind of slightly made up, but it still worked pretty good. Star Trek Ascendancy is a Light 4X game in the Star Trek universe. You are playing you have 3 different factions in like the base set. There is the Federation, the Romulans, and the Klingons, and they all have like their weaknesses and their specialties that they're good at. Like the Federation is good at like talking different planets to like homogenize them and stuff and like get them to join their side, but they can never like attack like unwarp civilizations and stuff like that. So they have to follow the prime objective or whatever. And like the Klingons are all about like confrontation and fighting, and they can never retreat and stuff like that. And the Romulans are all about like, they have some mining stuff, and they have a lot of like sneaky like cloaking device type stuff. So if you're into like the Star Trek universe, it's very thematic. There's also events that trigger every single time you like explore a new planet. You find the planet, okay, cool, there's a planet there. Then you flip over a card to see if there's a civilization on that planet, or if some sort of random event triggers, or if it's just a virgin planet that no one has ever been to before. No man or no one has been to before. It's very much like you are trying to get these planets, use them to build resources. The 3 resources in this game are production, research, and culture. The point of the game is to gain ascendancy. The game plays to 5 ascendancy. Whoever gets 5 ascendancy first wins, and you get ascendancy by earning culture. You can turn in 5 culture to create an ascendancy. And if you get to that much culture, then you win the game. the different races all have different ways they can get like extra culture. Like the Klingons, if they kill 3 ships off, they get extra culture because they're just all about fighting. And then the Federation, if they find like nebulas to research in, or find can homogenize like the different like warp ready civilizations, they can get more culture. So they're all about like working on their technology sort of stuff, but more trying to talk other races into join the Federation sort of thing. And then the Romulans are all about their research and technologies type stuff. So it feels very different with all the different races. I really like how it feels like a lighter 4X game. So like if it feels like the same sort of thing, you're exploring, expanding, exploiting, and exterminating like you do in other 4X games, but it's not super like complicated. Like the combat rolls are super simple. You can upgrade like your shields and your guns, and that'll make your dice rolls better for you and worse for your enemy. And it just takes like research to do that. Each person has like a deck of like different like research type cards that they can get, and you'll draw like 2 of them and get to pick one, and then you'll be able to put tokens on that each turn if you want to spend research tokens to actually turn that into a special ability that your race gets, and that makes each race feel different. One of my favorite things about this game is how the board is built. So you start like with your home sector, it's like a little circle, and you can send your ships into warp, and when a ship goes into warp, you just say, hey, it's warping off the planet in whatever direction, doesn't really matter. And then you roll the little warp die, and it'll say it's a 2 warp, a 3 warp, or a 4 warp, and that's just like the difference, like the number of inches that you go off from your main planet. And then you put another planet there, and then you can be like, okay, well now I'm going to warp off this planet and go this way. And the planets are kind of like free moving to try to like connect them to other ones until they have 2 warps going into them. Each planet has a certain number of like, they're called, I guess, like warp lanes or whatever is what they're called in the game. But after you have 2 warp lanes going into a specific planet, you can't like move it around the board anymore to try to like pivot it to make it easier to reach to other planets. But just like the board gets built as you're playing the game, but it gets built in like all sorts of like weird, like nebulous, like strange positions and stuff like that. It's very fun because you can just like explore whichever direction into space you want and try to find a new planet. So it feels very much like actual space exploration. You can send like your ships into warp. It takes like action tokens to send into warp, and then you can do like another one to like take it out, so you can like actually warp through spaces like faster. There's a ton of stuff that's like super thematic, so if you like light 4X games, it's definitely like a solid game. They're supposed to be coming out with 2 more factions, the Kardashians and Ferengi or whatever. And it's funny because like my Star Trek knowledge is not nearly as much as like other people's would be. Like I think Star Trek is cool. I watched a lot of like Next Generation when I was younger, but I'm not like up on all the knowledge. But like I loved this game. I thought this game was awesome. So you don't have to be a Star Trek like huge like into Star Trek to love this game. But if you are huge into Star Trek, you're going to know, like, you're going to pull out a card, an event card, and be like, oh, this is from that episode, and oh, man, this is from this episode. We were playing a game where Q popped up, and they thought they were exploring this planet, but it made them be exploring a planet, like, on the other side of the galaxy. Like, another player got to pick where the planet showed up, and so it's like they teleported their fleet over to the other side of the galaxy, which was super thematic and super interesting. So if you're looking for a lighter 4X game with that Star Trek theme, check out Star Trek Ascendancy.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How is it a light 4X game when I heard it's a very long game? Why would you consider it light?
So I'm used to playing Eclipse and Twilight Imperium, and they're just a lot more rules heavy. Like I feel like the complexity of this is more like the complexity of a game like Xia. Like there's a bunch of different things to explain, but overall it's not that complicated. Twilight Imperium and like Eclipse and stuff like that have a lot of like fiddly things going on, and just a lot of different things. It's just like a lot more dense as far as like the rules go. Like it's going to take you forever to explain the rules. I feel like I could teach Star Trek Ascendancy like pretty quickly. There's also several extra rules that are in the game as like different modules that can actually speed up the game. Like we played the game to where you only needed 4 Ascendancy to get a culture. So it just made the game like that much faster because you could get, or 4 culture to get an Ascendancy. So you could just get Ascendancy faster. So it made the games like a decent amount shorter. Me and Trevor played a game, and we played the 2-player game. We played for like 2 hours. It's like an hour per player mostly. So if you play 3 players, it'll probably take you like 3 hours. But yeah, I feel like it's solid. I mean, 4X games take a while. It takes a while to conquer the galaxy.
I was just wondering because you said light 4X and that.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense because of the rules.
Yeah, it's mostly the complexity type stuff. I feel like you could get people that aren't as, I mean, you still want to play with gamers, but I feel like they don't have to be like super hardcore. Like there's people that would never touch like Eclipse or Twilight Imperium just because there's a lot of stuff and they just glaze over trying to get through the rules. I feel like you could probably teach the rules for Ascendancy a lot faster just because there's a few things going on and things and stuff like that, but it all seems to make sense and seems pretty simple. So,
well, thank you very much.
But yeah, Star Trek Ascendancy. My friend Trevor is the one who had a copy of this. It is definitely on like the top of my to acquire list right now. So yeah, check out that game.
When you got done playing, were you like, Trevor?
No.
No.
I mean the last game.
You know
I
what I'm
probably
talking
should've
about?
been.
The Con. Yeah. Con.
We were actually
Okay.
playing with just the Next Generation cards because I think the first edition of it comes with like cards for like the older Star Trek stuff, and he didn't have that currently added into the game. But yeah, good times. He always played the Federation though, so he plays the Federation, but he always just went around attacking everything. So I'm like, I don't think you're playing the right faction there, man. It's not very. You're not playing to your strengths there. But yeah, it was good times. It was a lot of fun. The Federation just starting wars all over the galaxy. I mean, it happened in the shows, right?
No.
Not so much.
Well, they started wars, but not on purpose. It's like,
Accidental war.
you're not supposed to be here.
Nice.
Yeah.
We didn't know, guys.
Sorry, we're new. We brought coffee.
Awesome. Well, I want to talk a little bit about our topic tonight, which is becoming the Betrayer.
Da 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 da.
Da 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 da. So, what are some games that let you become a traitor? I can see what Rob's already going to say it.
You want me to? Well,
Say it.
Dead of Winter.
Yeah. That's the one that's called Betrayer.
I mean, Shadows over Camelot,
Battlestar
Dark
Galactica.
Moon, Battlestar Galactica, Rex. You can betray people depending on the card that you have.
Yeah.
In fact, that's how I won the game, as I was a betrayer. There's other games that have different type of betrayers, even though it's not a betrayer card. Like Diplomacy will ruin friendships. That is a big betrayer game and stuff like that. There's several. There's several games. I mentioned like 5. Do you guys have any you want to add?
I don't know if this has actually happened in your games, Rob, but one of the games that really made me want to like talk about this topic is actually Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, because when your character goes insane, you get an insanity card.
Yeah.
And the insanity card can change your win condition for the game.
Yeah, it's on the 1st edition too.
Yeah, it can literally make it so you're against the players now.
Mm-hmm.
But there are cards there that just make your win condition kind of weird, so the other players don't know if you're actually against them or you're just acting odd because you now have to act insane because whatever this card says.
That was on my list, but it wasn't, and you'll like this, Matt, asymmetrical to what we were talking about, so I didn't want to put it on there.
That doesn't even make sense.
It does
It
in the
makes sense.
context
Gotcha.
of previous podcasts.
Right. Well, it's a game where you become a betrayer, where you actually like. I was working for the team. When I played Mansions of Madness for with Hector and them last week, I ended up going insane, and I got a card that said someone else has to be insane or wounded when the game is over, or you lose the game. And I'm just like, but we're doing so good. Like, I'm the only one who's gone insane. Everybody else is like, they're doing pretty good. I'm like, guys, you guys need to do worse. So like, they were like running for the door with these things that they needed, just about to win the game. And I'm like, Hector, give me that stuff. And I'm like, I used the steal action in the game to steal some components from him, and I was going to run away, so he couldn't win the game yet. I still needed to win the game with them. I just needed someone.
Steal. There's
Yeah.
a steal thing?
Yeah, there's a steal action in the game that you can take. It's one of the listed actions that you can actually do. You roll off with one of your stats against their stats, and whoever, like, if yours are higher as the stealer, for the number of successes you have more than them, you get to steal that many items from them. It's only an investigator versus investigator action, and
That
it's
is awesome.
specifically for when you become like a traitor in the game.
That's awesome.
So I wasn't fully a traitor. I still won if we won the main condition. I just need someone else to be insane first. But the
Did
funny
they-
thing, they were like, Roy's gone bad. We gotta stop him. We gotta kill him. He's gonna like destroy everything. We can't, because I went from 100% helping the group to just being like, guys, come on, guys, we don't need to win yet. I mean, we can slow this down a little bit, which is probably not the case, because like that game, when you're right on the edge of winning, you gotta win.
You got to jump.
You got to
or
do
you-
it, or you're just going to lose. So I was pretty much putting the game in jeopardy 100%. But I was like, come on, guys. Just slow down. And the funny thing is I stole this stuff from Hector, and that same turn that I stole the stuff from Hector, Rodney ended up going insane. So I'm like, oh, well, okay, we can win now. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll just take the stuff to the door and we'll end the game and it'll be good. They're like, what? Are you sure you're going to do that? Because does that mean we lose? Does your card say you have to be the one that carries it out and then everybody else loses? So they trusted me 0% at this point.
Is Rodney the big tall guy that yells at everybody?
Yeah.
He showed up?
Yeah. Rodney and Ryan showed up. So it was pretty fun.
Man, he had a good crowd.
Yeah. But
I imagine you got yelled at hardcore.
they were like, don't trust Roy. And the funny thing is, if I would have just let Hector keep the stuff, I still would have won the game. It still would have been the same outcome because...
But you
he
didn't
wouldn't-
know.
I didn't know. I needed to make sure like I could run off with the stuff if I needed to run off with the stuff. So I was trying
Yeah.
to hedge my bets. But I was like, okay, guys, I'll just go to the door. And I get out, and they're like, so what happened? Did you win? Did you beat us? And I'm like, no, we're all on the same team. We all win the game. I was like, unless Rodney's thing says he has a different win condition.
Rodney's last term insanity just caused him
Right.
to lose.
He's like,
And
mine,
"Right."
mine just says that I can't do the same action twice. And I'm like, that seems good enough. So,
That's actually not terrible.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, well, that's fine. We all win the game. Yay. And they're like, we didn't trust you. So that was a pretty fun Betrayer game.
Actually, I like Rodney's insanity card just from a thematic perspective because it's just like can't do the same action twice. So he's like, I can't move twice. So I just imagine some crazy guy like step on a crack, break your mama's back, like walking down the road while there's just like frog people and giant
and you're not
Cthulhu
supposed
monsters
to
behind
tell
him.
the other players what your card says at all. So they're all like, okay, Rodney, for the team, we need you to run all the way over there and do this thing. He's like, I can't. And you're like, no, man, you need to go over. I'm not going to do it. Dude, are you a
could you
bad
not-
guy?
Could you not disclose what your thing was?
No, you're not supposed
Otherwise,
to.
there'd be no point.
Yeah.
Because I'd just be like, oh, my card says this. Yay.
There's literally
Yeah.
a card that says you're not allowed to talk.
Oh,
That's what
cool.
happens when you go insane. You're just no longer allowed to talk.
Is that for everybody or just that particular card?
Just that specific insanity card.
Yeah.
And then there's one literally that says you win the game if the investigators lose the game. And
Yep.
there you go. You are the betrayer. So,
It's
Good
such a
times.
fun game.
yeah. But yeah, so do you like being the betrayer in a game?
Yeah.
Yes.
I like
very
it,
much so.
but it gives me anxiety every single time. I don't know. Every time I'm like, man, I got to do this. I got to make this happen. Like, I got to pull this out of somewhere. Okay, here we go.
But you're so good at it, Roy.
I mean, I don't,
You are really good at being the betrayer, like to the point where it makes me upset because you're so nice about it. Like that's how I started to like you as a person. Because
because you knew I was evil? Thanks.
well, no, because when we first met, it was at that game day, and we were playing Sheriff of Nottingham or whatever. But then, like before I started coming to your gaming group regularly, there was another game day, and we played Shadows over Camelot together. And you were such a terrible person because you were so nice. And you did such a great job in Shadows over Camelot. Matt didn't play, but he watched or something.
Yeah.
And
I
it was
think I
like,
showed up at the end.
yeah, I was like, hey guys. And you were like, you were explaining the rules. All right, we win if somebody does this. Is anybody the betrayer? And like, you made it come across like, oh, nobody's a betrayer. And then you're like, cause it's me. It was just like,
I
that would be
felt so
terrible.
bad. It's the worst, like, being the betrayer and teaching a game at the same time to like new people.
Yeah.
That's like literally the worst. Like, oh, you guys have never played this game? Well, let's play this cooperative-ish game. Oh, let me look at my card. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to destroy you guys?
Yeah. And you did it so well, because even the guy who was sitting beside me, I think his name is David or whatever, there's an action in that game where you can ask somebody to reveal
he helped
if
me
they're
more
the
than
betrayer.
anybody.
He was such a bad player. I made him reveal his card, and I still didn't believe him after he told us he was on our team. He was that bad, Matt. It was so terrible. Like
he was the best person to my cause.
Oh my goodness!
It wasn't that he was playing bad. It was just that his strategies were not.
He was playing bad when you're playing a co-op game. He was not playing a co-op game.
Yeah,
and so like he wouldn't take any wounds or anything like that. He would just like let catapults come out and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, no, I want to do this, so I'm just going to go do this by myself. And we're like, the castle's about to get blown up. Like, come on! And he's like, no.
Nah.
It's like, man, you live in your mom's basement.
Dude, I remember during that game, there was a point where I had started doing a quest. Like, I was in the middle of the quest, and something more important had, like, sprung up. It's like, oh my gosh, well, maybe I should go stop doing this quest that I put, like, 3 cards down on and go do that. All the cards I've done already will be discarded, but maybe I should go do that instead. And everybody's like, yeah, that would be a good idea. And I'm like, okay. And I literally, like, had wasted like 4 of my turns or like 5 of my turns just like getting over there, playing all these cards, then moving back over there, and like all this stuff, like just inefficiency was what killed it in the end.
Do you remember that time where like you said you didn't have the cards, but you really did have the cards? Was that same quest?
Yeah, that was it. I was like, I don't have the cards. Something
like, guys,
got
I can't do this. And you were just so nice about it. Man, that still bothers me. That was so great though. That lets you know when at least to me, when you got a good game. Like, yeah. So fun.
So what goes through your mind when you realized you are the player that's against the rest of the players?
What goes through my mind?
Yeah. What do you think? The first time you see that werewolf card, or the first time you see that traitor card or betrayer card, like, what do you think? Is there something you do to like prep yourself immediately, or?
Well, you go first, Matt. You go first.
We're going to give away all of our secrets, and we're just going to be terrible at these games.
Right? I almost don't want to say.
What I do is I smirk both internally and then externally.
And then we immediately call you on it, and you lose the game.
And then say, everybody close your eyes. Fascists, wake up. Okay, cool. and then
that was
everybody else wake up.
That was the best.
I'm actually like very garbage at things where I need to be like very talky about.
Yeah.
So I just try not to talk because I know I will talk myself into a hole. Now that being said, there are plenty of opportunities where you are like the traitor, or you're playing like a game like Werewolf or something like that, where it's kind of a traitory game.
Yeah.
That you can start talking yourself into a hole for strategic value. So I guess it's just know when to punch yourself in the face.
I feel like you have an advantage sometimes, Matt, just because like the fact that you are sometimes more quiet when we play games. Me and Rob, like, if we are the betrayer, we still have to put up the same front no matter what. Like, we're screwed. Like, we still have to go hard because we always go hard, like, when we're playing these games. So, like, it's like, now I'm the bad guy, but I still have to be really the good guy because I'm normally really the good guy. So it's, like, really hard to, like, you can't just immediately, like, refrain and, like, pull back because then everybody's going to know. And for me, the first thing that goes through my mind, like, every time because I can go super hard when I'm the good guy. Like, I'm like, yeah, let's do all this stuff. And I still need to do that when I'm the bad guy. But when I, like, look at that card and see that I'm, like, the traitor or the betrayer or whatever, I'm just like, oh, crap, I gotta do this thing. Like, it's going to be a little bit, like, it's normally not even harder to be the betrayer. A lot of times it's harder to be the people. But it's easier for my conscience, I guess, when I'm the good guy. I can try to tear other people down better, I guess, which is pretty terrible.
So terrible to say.
It is true.
I'm really good at just like, yeah. But it's true.
I prefer to be the bad guy just because I like to just
hide in the shadows.
Yeah, I just like to just sit there and be like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then everything just fails. And I just kind of go, neat.
everything
But that
crumbled
is
around
that
me.
is an advantage though to games that have a betrayer. If you notice a lot of them, the game is meant to fail. That's why the betrayer card hurts so much more. Because when you succeed in the game, it's a big deal, even if there's not a betrayer. And so when you succeed, it's awesome. But then when you find out that person helping you is a betrayer, it just makes it that much harder. Because there's not an easy game out there that I know of where it's like, okay, we pretty much got this. Like, they're all tough games to win in and of themselves.
I like being the betrayer, and I like when it happens and like I can pull it off. But overall, majority of the time, I want the good guys or the uphill battle guys to win the game. Like I always want the humans to win in Battlestar Galactica. I want the knights to win and all this stuff, because if you're the betrayer, you're on the same team as the board game, and the board game is evil. So I like beating the board game. So I guess because I play so many other co-ops, it's like, yes, I want to be on the hard to win side, and see them actually succeed. But when the time is right, we can.
I'm the opposite. I'd rather be the betrayer.
Gotcha.
I don't often become the betrayer, but I'd rather be the betrayer because then if I lose, it's my fault. Or I don't have to get mad at that David guy who's just being completely selfish. You know, like, I'll get mad at him to stay my character, like Roy said, because if we change at all, like, people immediately jump on us.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I prefer to be the betrayer. And it's an additional challenge because you're playing professional hide and go seek.
Sort of.
I mean, you really are, because, like, you can't tell people that you are what you are, but you're right in front of them, but you're not. I mean, it's awesome. So, anyway, we can go to the next question.
That's one of my favorite things, too, about social deduction games, is because, especially with people like you guys who are, like, very loud.
No.
Now, there's not a whole lot of games that this is applicable to, but like there are certain games where you can kind of like look to your neighbor and be like, "Hey, man, this is what I am." Like really quiet, kind of on the sly. So like it's really fun to do like during like One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Where everybody's like, "No, this is happening. That's happening." You'd be like, "Okay, so here's what's actually happening right now," and then you can just talk to that person, and then you guys can have like a sort of a pocket of stuff that gradually grows until you have an understanding of what's going on. Like, there's a whole lot of little subtle things that you can do that's really cool.
Dude, Matt, you need to play, what is it, Dead Last?
Oh, yeah.
You would love that game.
He was in at Mega Moose Con, that's right.
Wow.
Nah.
He needs to play it. He would love it. Because literally, that's what that game is.
Yeah.
Is secretly sharing with just the little one person beside you, or like the couple people beside you, or whatever, and trying to do it on the down low.
But it's terrible. It's terrible, Matt, because, like, you're going to show that person, "Hey, man, vote orange. Vote orange." And they're going to be like, "Okay." And then you're going to vote orange, and they're going to vote your color. And you're like, "I'm not orange!"
Yeah.
Even better is you show them and tell them to vote a color, but then these guys told you to vote a different color, so you vote with them, and the only reason they picked that color was because you told them to, but then you left them out to dry. That's the best. Yeah, Dead Last, fun game. Do you have any tips for playing the betrayer? How do you keep from blowing your cover?
Yes.
Don't
Here's
say,
a neat-
"Okay, cool."
You have to cooperate.
Mm-hmm.
You have to cooperate.
You have to be the
9
goodest
out
of
of
the
10
good guys.
times when I've won as the betrayer, I cooperated as much as I could.
Right.
Like even to where it hurt me as the betrayer. Like where we did something so amazing for everybody else, like it made it harder for me. Now, when games like Dead of Winter, which is probably my favorite betrayer game, because it's one of those games where even if you don't have a betrayer, there are things that you may have to do as an individual that point you as a betrayer,
Right.
and so it just makes everybody paranoid with
Gives
each
you a
other.
good cover or whatever.
Yeah. Or just makes everybody where they don't have a cover and everybody thinks everyone's a betrayer.
Right.
But cooperate as much as you can. As much as you can. That's not the only strategy, but that's a very good one, because it's hard to point a finger when you can be like, "Look, man, they needed 10 food. I literally just put in 9 of the 10 food. Like, come on, like, we can do this." But if you start to do shady stuff definitely not from the beginning, unless you have to because of a card that comes up. But don't start to wreck it until the end. Cooperate as much as you can.
I'll probably never win one of these games again, but I always like put myself in the mindset of I'm a good guy. I'm gonna do, we gotta do the thing we're supposed to do for the stuff. We got
So
like
you're
if you're
bipolar.
playing Dead of Winter, I'm like gotta kill the zombies. We gotta stop this stuff. Oh my! Like I try to get passionate about doing the good things, like I normally would be if I was a good guy. But then just like in the back of my mind, just be like, oh yeah, maybe we should screw this up a little bit. Just wreck this a little bit. Just a
Can I
little bit.
give away one of your tells?
What is it?
Here's something that I've noticed about Roy in playing games like
The
this.
problem is you call me out all the time when I am a good guy and you're a good guy. You don't trust me no matter what. So
But games that you go crazy hard, I'm talking about not being loud. I'm talking about yelling. The games that you yell, you're a good guy.
okay,
The
so
games-
now when I'm a bad guy,
You-
I need to yell even more.
Bro,
Well, I was gonna say you do go a little bit harder because you're like we're losing,
yeah, like
yeah,
and it's like
because
okay,
you
cool.
hate
And then
losing so much that overtakes you, and like
ever
you-
so slightly.
you
Well, it's because
get
the game
angry.
is pitted against us 100%.
But like that's how I know if you're really a good guy. If you go so hard good, like yeah, like Secret Hitler
As the betrayer, it's
screaming at a guest who's also a publisher of a game, and like we're invited to their game night. You don't even know this person. You're just screaming at this woman. Roy's a good guy. Roy is the top good guy. So that's your
That's okay. I got Emerson to yell at me. We're all fine. Everything's good.
as long as everybody or a couple of us were yelling. So the thing is, it should have been a tell to give away that Rob wasn't 100% good because normally Rob is a little bit more enthusiastic than he was in that game. He was playing a little bit on the down low
I was
there.
playing the hey, it's 1 a.m. card.
I'm tired, guys.
Yeah, I was playing the hey guys, I've been up because I got up early every single day for Gen Con.
Yeah.
And I got up, yeah.
I'm tired, guys. I'm definitely not Hitler. I'm tired.
Well, and I did my strategy. I went along with everything you guys gave me.
Yep.
I voted every single time.
Yep.
Because that's a hard game to win. That's a hard game to win. I voted every single time.
Oh,
for,
as the liberals or
yeah, as the liberals,
It's
it's
a-
a hard game to win.
I think it's a little bit easier when you play with more people. It's just we haven't
Gotcha.
played it enough. I feel
And
like
I would agree with you because even though we played with a big group that last time, the liberals were a turn away from winning the game.
yeah,
They just
it
got
was very
lucky.
close. It was
That
very
was
close.
it was the closest game out of
so that
all the-
last round, were we able to vote Hector
You
as a
could've-
chancellor? Like,
Yeah.
was that?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because I feel like
could've-
he was something the last turn. Like we weren't able to do it.
No, but here's the thing though.
Like he was just recently president or something. I don't remember.
You
Well, 'cause-
the thing that mattered though,
Yes. No.
you could have voted the girl. You could have voted the gentleman who's sitting directly to your left who didn't say anything the whole game.
My main thing is everyone was arguing, and we already had it as you, and I was afraid that somebody was gonna like give you the
That
wrong
was-
things.
Well, no,
and
you
I was
passed-
like, guys, we can do this. Just let me give him the things, and we can do Rob again.
But
and
you did
everybody
that
was like,
yourself,
okay,
though,
yeah, it was
because
my
you
fault.
vetoed the girl. You were like, no, I don't trust her.
Yeah,
let's
that
veto
was-
her to make you president, and then you made me the
No,
chancellor.
she wasn't the president. She was gonna be the.
No,
Oh,
President.
she was gonna be the president.
yeah,
And then you vetoed. Everybody vetoed what her chancellor choice was. So that was what ended up happening. Was Hector was president and made Emerson chancellor, and that was how we got the fourth liberal policy out. And then it went to the guy who was very clearly from before the game started a fascist.
Oh, so
And-
sad.
Vetoed
yes.
through that, and then
I
vetoed
continue
through
to just
the girl
nail that
because
guy to the
everybody was a
wall the
little
entire
shaky on
time, which
her.
is sad.
Everybody was a
fun,
little shaky on her, so vetoed her stuff. We didn't quite get to a hung court, and then you gave it to Rob because you couldn't give it to either Emerson or Hector.
Oh yeah, that was why.
And honestly, at that point, you might have just been better off to nominate the guy who was obviously a fascist, just because you know he's not Hitler. Because there's no way Hitler would be like, "Hi guys."
Yeah.
Yeah. But the
Um,
other thing that
it's
we
not
got
great.
lucky as the fascists, the last two cards were liberal laws.
Yeah,
Like, we got lucky that you guys voted me because had you not, it would have passed no matter what. Like,
yeah,
you had a liberal law and a
was-
liberal law.
it's very close.
Such a great.
I was just so sad. The guy that was sitting to my left, I don't remember his name. I'm really sad, but
Bro, he was half asleep the whole game. Don't be sad.
I think that was part of it. But I was like, man, I wish he would have like hit me or something because he was on our team, and I just wrote him off the whole time. like, oh man, that was my downfall.
Do you not remember how that game started? We all sat down, and after we introduced yourselves, you looked at your card and you were like, "Here's what we're gonna do." It wasn't even like, "Hey guys, here." Like, Matt wasn't even done explaining the rules.
It was.
It was just like, oh my
I had
gosh.
lost that game so many times. I've still
Twice in a
never
row.
You went so hard, Roy.
lost that
I was
game
like,
so
I
many
need a
times.
victory. I need a win in this call.
Like,
Oh man,
as soon as you started doing it, I was like, yes.
I love that game though. It's like even if it's very,
I like it.
even if it's not exactly like 100% balanced, I still think the amount of like conversation and like drive and story you get out of it more than makes up for
Look how
what
much
potentially.
about it. And even the game we didn't play with Emerson, when I knew Hector was Hitler before the game even started, we just had our little
Yeah.
connection. And then the game where Matt told us that he was the fascist, like, okay, everybody, fascists look up. All right, got my team, eyes closed. I mean,
that's almost what he said.
the emotions that the game brings out, the conversations, like, that's a good game. That's a fun game. So good. What was the question?
Wow. How do you keep from blowing your cover? My wife actually just texted me and asked me why we're being so loud. I'm like, because we're talking about this game. It makes me loud. This is what happens when we talk about this game. I get loud, I guess. Okay, let's go to the next one. What is your strategies for figuring out who the betrayer is? Rob, you got to tell everybody yours because it is the best strategy. That's halfway a joke.
To figuring it out.
The apple butter thing.
Oh, apple. So my friend from Arkansas has this thing where she makes her daughter, if she's lying, say apple butter 5 times real fast, and her daughter, if she's lying, will start laughing. She can't help it. But when she's telling the truth, she says it really fast. And so we were playing games with them, and so I took it into one of our things. So now I make the guys say apple butter, and if they smile or, crack a smile or anything, I'm like, oh, they're the betrayer. Unless they're Hector, and there's something about Hector, and he just turns different colors to me, and it's crazy. I know he's a betrayer before the game cards are even dealt. It's just like I can see into the future, and I just know it's Hector.
You're like,
Every
Hector's
time.
always such a
It's
nice
awkwardly-
man, and there's something
You've
twisted
never
about him
miscalled
right
it either. Even when we were playing Betrayal House on the Hill, you're like, Hector, you're the traitor. That's random. Like who gets picked the
now.
traitor, and
What's
then Hector's
even,
like,
what's even
the traitor.
worse than that is we'd be playing, what is it? Spyfall, and you're like, Hector's a spy. And like, really? Like, he doesn't know where we are, obviously.
House on the Hill, to me, really kind of freaked me out. Because not only did I say, before we even passed out the cards, not only did I say it was going to be Hector, but then I said, Hector, it's you, and you're going to have to kill me to win the game. And did he not have to kill me to win the game?
Yep.
He was chasing me around. Ooh, that was weird. That's when I knew I had special powers, so you guys need to be my friend. That's... Yeah. I do that, and then I also try to see if people act slightly different than normal. And not just like tired or their attitudes change because they're mad about a previous game.
Right.
But like Roy and I, for example, if Roy gets super, super aggressive, I know he's a good guy. Or if Roy gets quiet in any way, like he's not trying to metagame, then I know, okay, something's up with Roy. There's something going on. So like, with your friends, kind of their tells when they change in personality. What's fun about these games is when you play with people you've never met before.
Right.
That's always fun. And then try to look for body language.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's constantly looking around at stuff, like Spyfall, that's a great way to tell who the spy is. Look at the person who's looking at the cards the most.
Ortiz has
think
got the sheet in front of him, just looking at it.
I always think it's funny, like,
Boulder
when
Station?
you ask someone blatantly, like, hey, are you the betrayer? And, like, either they hesitate or they're like, or they're like, I don't know. And you just be like, no, that's not what you say. You never say you don't know if you're the betrayer. You are always the good guy. You never, like, give any false...
Well, the
like,
thing,
you're
the
claiming
thing
to
that
be
you
the
do,
bad
and
guy.
I don't know if you do this intentionally or not, but it's very clever if you do. You subtly shift up the question you ask when you ask that. So it's not necessarily, are you the betrayer? Sometimes it's, are you the betrayer? Sometimes it's, are you on my team? And then the thing is, if you're always ready to answer yes, and you just fire off a yes, you're like, got it. He's the bad guy. And it's just like you have to like listen to the question and then respond in kind. It's like back when you're like 8 years old and somebody's like, "Did you not mean to do this?" And because they added "not" to the question, you can't answer the way that would be appropriate to answer. So you have to like, and like your little 8-year-old brain's like, "Huh? Can you ask it without the "not"?
Emerson's deduction skills are ridiculous because he looks for
mad.
people. He looks for
robot.
people like
He's not
saying
real.
things that are not true in the game state. Like that's what he was doing to Matt. He was like, "Matt, you said something that was not true for the current state of the game, and so therefore you're trying to spread falsehoods. So therefore you're a fascist." Like
What you said is
that was-
statistically impossible, and I was like, I mean, it's an example. I'm just trying to give you an example so that you can understand.
He like mathed
He's
it
like, "Shut
hard. He was like,
Emerson
"Dude."
he is out of this world.
Oh man.
But Matt's my favorite person to ask questions to.
Oh, it's
Because-
bad. I feel like asking
Oh.
Matt that question just breaks the game.
You can't ask him, especially if he's a bad guy, because every time it's, I don't know.
And then he is, and you know he is, and you're just like, well, is this a game now?
That's-
Like, what
that's
did we
what
just
I
do?
now.
But,
It's
but
just
that's
like,
what he does mostly when he's the bad guy. If he's a good guy, he's like, he'll do like, nah. You see, he shake his head, nah. But if he's the bad guy, I don't know. It's like, man, like, Matt, I love you,
least
but
try.
you totally give it away.
well, but the
You
thing
the
is,
betrayer? Nah. You the betrayer? I don't know.
That's what I
Smile
like about-
and everything.
Matt's like,
That's what I
I am
like
the bad guy, you know I'm the bad guy, and you guys are still gonna go down. That's what Matt's attitude.
yeah. I mean, essentially, that's why I like games that are like Battlestar Galactica or like One Night Ultimate Werewolf to an extent, or like Secret Hitler and stuff, where it's like you have a team of people,
Yes.
or with like BSG, where it's like you can be the one bad guy, but you still have options after you get found out, assuming they kind of messed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's not so big a deal that you keep your role hidden. You can kind of play more mind games, and you can just be like,
Well, that's what I love also about Deception, Murder in Hong Kong.
Uh-huh,
oh yeah,
definitely,
you can just know.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm the killer. How'd I do it? Yeah.
And that's like super cocky mode. Like
It just
it's-
never
it's
works
crazy.
out for me because I'm always like, cool, trophy and like tissue, and then like somebody puts down bedroom as like the location, and it's like two things in. It's just location and accident. And they're like tissue bedroom or tissue trophy, got it, and I'm like,
What?
can you write down on a piece of paper
How
where
you
that
got to
came-
there?
I wouldn't have made that connection at all. I don't know.
Love it. Oh, man.
Yeah.
What's the next question?
Next question. Do you think that a game can be ruined if a betrayer is outed too soon?
Depends on the game.
Yeah. I've definitely had this happen in like things of Battlestar Galactica before. I mean, I don't think it ruined the game, but like the turn 2 or 3 or whatever, we just found out, oh, this guy's a Cylon, and we immediately throw him in the brig, or do different things to like hinder them. And it's like, okay, well, they're in the brig the beginning of the game. They might as well just go to the Cylon thing, or they're just going to be sitting around because they're not going to talk us out of it.
Yeah.
Or we've had games where, like playing with Matt in Deception Murder Hong Kong. Sometimes you'd be like, Matt, are you the murderer? And he'd be like, I mean, maybe. And it's like, sure, looks like you. Is it this and this? Done. Put a fork in
Yeah.
it. Done. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Rob? If like the
It's-
person who's playing the betrayer isn't like super
It
deceptive.
depends on the person. Yeah, I would agree with that. It really depends on the person. Like, I think it would ruin the game if you're trying to play one of those games with a brand new person, because typically the betrayer it's random.
Mhm.
But that person that's brand new to it, they may not know how to get out of the situation. Like, for example, Battlestar Galactica. If you're thrown into the brig and you're in there a couple rounds, just reveal yourself and get out and start messing up people.
Yeah.
Or even games like Dead of Winter or other stuff. Like, you can do things to kind of throw people off your trail. You just got to know what you're doing. So I would say 50-50. But it hasn't. I haven't been a part of a game yet where a game has necessarily been ruined. I've had games where I felt sorry for the betrayer at the end of the game, because then once I realized they were the betrayer and they weren't doing things, like I'm watching. Have you ever watched a game unfold and you see what people should be playing and should be doing and they're not doing it, and
Yeah.
you kind of want to tell them what to do, but You can't.
They're not
'cause
on your team.
They're not on your team, and so it's like stuff like that I've had happen.
Yeah. So the question was, Matt, is do you think a game can be ruined if the betrayer is outed too soon?
Yeah, certain games. Not all games. I think it just kind of is how the game is designed. So I mean, certain games, especially if you're operating as like a single betrayer. So like in like Dead of Winter, for instance, like if you know like round 1 or 2 who the betrayer is, that game is going to get pretty easy or easier.
I don't know.
I should
Freaking
say.
Dead of Winter, even.
I mean, it's a hard game, but like, if you know that there's a bad dude, you can just immediately be like, and we exile this guy.
Yeah, but like that's what's so great
can-
about the game. You have to know.
Yeah.
Because if you mess up on the exile,
You're taking hits, like
you're taking major hits.
and like BSG to an extent, like if you find out really fast, you can just block them away in the brig,
Right.
and then they can get out, but they don't get their super crisis card, and they're not as powerful, and so
Right.
then it's woo. So if it happens before halftime and another Cylon doesn't come out, it's like ugh. That guy's job is real hard. But that being said, most games, and even the games I mentioned, still play very well, even if you do happen to find out a little early. It's just sometimes the game does suffer. Also, game designers, if you have a card that indicates that you're a traitor, please don't put additional rules subtext on that card where it doesn't exist on the normal person card, because people like me will read the card, and then
Especially not
everyone
when it's
else
a mile
at the table
long.
go, huh, what you doing there, buddy? My card
Yeah.
just has a picture of a guy. And you're like, oh, just admire him.
With like a thumbs up, like yeah.
Yeah. It's just like one card's
That's like
blue.
with Battlestar Galactica.
That's like-
I try to remember to let everybody like take time. Like everybody look at your card, read all the text, read that you're not a Cylon 5 times.
That's specifically the game I'm talking about,
Yeah,
because the
it's
first time
really
I
bad.
played it at like your place, like I pull up the Cylon card, and the Cylon card has like a paragraph or two explaining like what the Cylon's job is, what their role is, like
Well, even
what their
worse is
motivation
it-
is as a character and stuff. And
the
you're like,
different
okay,
Cylons have different abilities, so even if you're a Cylon from game to game, you might not even have the same ability when you
Yeah.
reveal yourself. So you have to read it every single time.
So here's a question:
and then all the regular people cards are just like,
should you show those cards to the group before the game starts, especially for new players, so they can
mean, it'd
kind of
probably
get an
be-
idea,
It'd probably be
So
a
that
good
way-
call.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that way they're not sitting there reading it forever, and they're like, okay, yeah, because that's
And I
definitely
mean, normally you're
another
going to read it and then forget what it said and then try to sneakily
Yeah.
be like,
well, see, that's the thing too. It's like you pretty much have to read it to get the rules in Battlestar Galactica, and then it's
Yeah.
like if you don't, you're not playing as efficiently as you could,
right.
and
Yeah, just
I don't-
making it easier for the other
that
people.
game specifically is very.
Awesome.
I mean, it's good, but it's just like very odd in like that one facet where it's like, because between that, I think that was the thing that kind of outed me as the Cylon, is because I got the Cylon card at halftime and was like, huh, and just sat there and was reading, and everybody's like, man, what you doing? I was like, nothing, just looking at faces, and I was like, so what does it mean if you're the Cylon? Because I was just like, I'm just trying to. I was like, let me just play off the fact that everybody now thinks I'm a Cylon, and everybody was like, nah, he's super the Cylon. And I was like, okie doke. Welp.
That's the good thing about Dead of Winter, though, is that all the cards have text and you have to know what
Yes.
your objective is. So.
Yeah.
That's the thing I like about Dead of Winter, is like everybody's got something, whether you're the traitor or you just want to hoard gasoline. It doesn't really matter. You've got something that you need to read and
Yeah,
count.
everyone's going to do something that's going to betray the group in one way or another.
And it gives people a reason to go back and look at their cards sometimes, too, is be like, do I need 3 books or 4 books? 3 books. Okay, good. So...
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know we've talked about so many of these stories already, but do you have a favorite story of someone being the betrayer or you being the betrayer yourself?
I'll just go into recently, and I'll say the whole Emerson yelling at Matt, and then me being Hitler, because I played into Emerson's hands.
It got
Like-
so scary there at the end, though.
It
He was
did. He was
he just started
breaking
not
it
to
down,
trust you. I was like, oh god.
and but I was agreeable, and I didn't argue with his logic. I was like, okay, that makes sense, and I did stuff like when I became president. It was obvious. Hey, assassinate Matt. Like, okay, put things in my favor. And he was like, if you're the fastest at the end of the game, I'm going to bow down to you. And he did. He bowed down to me at the end of the game. And it was awesome. And we've talked about it on a previous show, but that's probably the best experience. I've had other ones that are more memorable or were more epic than that, but that was crazy when you have Emerson Matsushi get on his knees and bow down.
Here's the worst one for me. So at my birthday party a long time ago, we were playing a game of Shadows over Camelot, and I really wanted the good guys to win, so I was like, I'm not going to look at my card, my loyalty card. I'm just not going to even look at it. I'm going to go hard for the good guys. We're going to make this happen. So we were getting towards the end of the game. Like, we were going to win. And my friend Guy, you guys know Guy, he was like, hey, we're going to win. I'm going to accuse Roy just for the heck of it. And I'm like, what? He's like, accuse Roy! And I'm just like, wait, what? And I look at my card, and I am the traitor after playing, like, literally as a good guy the entire game. I'm like, how did this happen? Why did I not look at my loyalty card? This was stupid. So I ended up losing the game after I had helped everyone else, like, solidly win the game. Like, they won the game.
How salty were you? Because
I wasn't salty. It was just, I mean, it was the end of the game already, so it was, yeah. I just had to laugh it off. So.
Oh, man.
I would love to have been there to see you.
I was like, well, I'm still going to claim that as a victory because, like, I really helped you guys.
Any way to get the W.
If I can justify it to myself, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
But, yeah, he still tells that story, being like, hey, remember that time I accused you and you got screwed on your birthday? That was great. So it was pretty funny.
Guy, he's special.
Man.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, what about you, Matt? Do you have any specific memories?
I mean, there's kind of two. Not necessarily any of them being so much about the traitor. Like the one is, we've mentioned it before, but we're playing Spyfall, and we're all at the beach, and we're playing with Ryan, and it gets to his turn to ask a question, and he just looks at me and goes, "Do you have a gun?" And we all go, "Oh, clearly he's the spy." He was not. He knew we were at the beach and was just curious if I had a gun. I don't know why.
We still make fun of that. Like, we still ask that question whenever we play Spyfall. Hey, do you got a gun?
That's like our lead out.
I mean, why would I? I don't. No, I don't.
God, it's just... And the one time you answer yes, you're like, oh, cool, you're at the police station. Have a good one. But no, that, and then when we played Dead of Winter together it was my first time playing Dead of Winter, and I was the traitor, and my objective was to have more followers than everybody else in the game, and like Roy was just collecting them like they were Pokemon, and I was like,
gotta catch 'em all.
And so one of his guys was almost one of his guys was almost dead, and I was like, cool, next turn, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move over there and slap him in the face with the 2x4, and I'll win. It'll be great, because everybody, the morale hit will make us lose, but I'll have more followers than everybody, so I'll win, and that will be great. And then Roy moved that guy to a different location, and then rolled a tooth, and he died, and I was just like if he could have just not, it was like, just... like 30 seconds. That was all I need. But that game, the Lighthouse card, so good.
Such a good game. I'm so excited for my Long Night expansion to come in.
Man.
When it comes in, we're playing like
it's been a long way waiting for
that. That will not be one of those games that just sits in bubble wrap from Gen Con that's behind me on the floor.
Like all those other ones.
Yes.
Do you have a Seafall group that you're like collecting to be like, once a month we gather and sail boats?
I want to, but
the missus.
Well, no, it's not that.
He's got to play the whole game.
Well, I really want a dedicated group. I really want a dedicated.
Oh yeah, no, I don't blame you.
And so it's just like when this happens, like, do I need to write up a waiver? Like, is there going to be like
guarantee?
Like, okay, and if you don't, financial, blah blah blah, kind of stuff.
You got to pay your percentage of the game.
Like, come on, man, because we can't do this like we've done Pandemic Legacy.
Yeah.
And I will read the rules for for this game.
I think we
rather
all probably will. It'll be fine.
than Pandemic Legacy, because coming to find out, we're not too far off, but we've made a lot of mistakes. Like half the game should be on fire, right?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Are we ever going to finish that game?
I don't know. I saw it. It was on Amazon for like 45 the other day, and I was like,
Yeah.
should I just buy a new copy?
Awesome, guys. Well, I guess that will close out the podcast for tonight. We
was a fun
stream
show.
these podcasts on youtube.com/C/Epic Gaming Night, Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to check out our t-shirts at analoggamer.com/Epic Gaming Night. Hype! Rob's holding up his Analog Gamer shirt for those listeners. And make sure to hit us up on Twitter and Instagram. We post a ton of pictures of the games we're playing and things we're excited for over on those things. And it's a good way to communicate with us. Hit us up. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe. Hit us up with iTunes reviews. And check us out on Facebook. It has been a blast.
It has been a blast. And go play board games.
Yeah, board games are
Go
pretty cool.
play board games. They're awesome and they're a lot of fun. And definitely play a Betrayer board game.
And Rob is always the betrayer.
Always. No, Roy is always the betrayer.
Always.
No.
Peace.
Roy did it.
Nice. I guess when I talk about these games, I get a little bit too loud because I've never had an issue with my wife fussing at me about this before. Someone said they definitely wish there were buildings in Champions of Midgar as well. It would put it over Lords of Waterdeep. I still think it's personally over Lords of Waterdeep for me. So
I need to play that game.
I think it is 2, but like I said, I just would like a little bit more. Like, having played Lords of Waterdeep, like, I really liked that one mechanic, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah. How do I rank other Space 4X games I like? I still need to play Ascendancy more to know if I like it more than Eclipse. I think I like it more than Eclipse, just because ease of play. But I mean, Twilight Imperium, obviously, number one. Always number one, just because the scale of it. Like, I like the depth. Ascendancy, like, I like that it's lighter and it's easier to teach, but also, like, sometimes when like, the games I've played, I've been like, there could be more. There could be a little bit more, like, I don't know. Because, I mean, I'm a gamer, like, I play, like, hardcore games. I do like the fact that I feel like I could get it to the table and play it and be done with it without having to be like, all right, guys, here's this game. I hope you guys are ready because I'm going to now explain the rules. I'm sorry, you will probably ask me every single one of these rules again while we're playing this game because that's what's going to happen, but these are what they currently are, and here we go.
Like games like that, I wish they came with like quick fact sheets.
Yeah, and I mean, you can print a lot of that stuff offline, but I don't know. It's kind of hard. Like, I feel like Eclipse has a ton of like little cards that say what every little thing does, and you can like hand them out to people and they can pass them around and read and stuff. But there's just a lot in the game, like this thing, then that thing, then that thing, then this thing. And once you've played a couple rounds, you're pretty good. But I feel like Ascendancy, like you could just jump into it a lot quicker, and it'll also play a lot quicker than the other ones. So, mic drop. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what order I put it in. I mean, Ascendancy. I'm not sure if it's over Eclipse yet. I also need to own the game. I also have a favoritism towards games I own, as opposed to games that I don't own. Do you do that, Rob? Or do you just buy all the games if you really like it?
And if I really like it, I try to buy them. But of course, like the games that I buy them with the intentions because I do like them or I like the concept and I want to play them. I don't want to just... I'm not that type of collector. And I'd only say I'm a collector because I have over 100. But, like, I want to play and I like the concept of the game. So, yeah. Like, I haven't bought Eclipse. I don't think I will buy Eclipse.
Right.
Just because it doesn't sound like it'll scratch the itch for me that Twilight Imperium does, and I'd rather play other.
Twilight Imperium is better. I mean,
yes,
Eclipse
I'd
is
rather
definitely
just
shorter. It's different. Like,
there's a lot of people that like Eclipse.
This game or that game.
Yeah,
but
so I'd rather just play Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna do like big galactic space stuff.
Gotcha.
The one thing I like about Eclipse better than Twilight Imperium is the fact that you can design each of your ships.
Oh yeah, that is
And
a lot of fun.
so you have like each of your like different ship levels are customizable. So like my fighter might be very different from your fighter. And
That's
I'm
one
like,
of the
oh,
things that drew
that's
me to
great.
Zaya so much because I'm like, oh, this is kind of like what they did in Eclipse, and oh yeah, get to build my ship how I want to. So,
Yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. For some reason, for me, like games that I don't own that I really like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good game, that's a solid game. But then when I like actually own it myself, I'm like, this is my game now. Like I love this game. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like even my Board Game Geek rating. Like if I really like the game, I'll be like, okay, cool. That's like 7, 8, like a solid. But then like when I own it and have played it even more, I'm like 9.
10.
Let's
10.
do it. 10.
Yeah.
Like this game is amazing. Like for some reason, just because I actually have it myself and can like
It goes
look
up
at it
at
and
least
mess with
one
it,
full
it,
point.
it goes up a little bit for me. So
No, I get that.
Ascendancy might go up a little bit for me if I have it myself, but currently I have to live vicariously through Trevor's copy.
It's a $100 game.
Yeah, well, you can get it for like 64 on Cool Stuff whenever they actually come out, so which is a big difference.
Yeah.
The things that happen when Asmodee doesn't make the prices stay high is actually pretty amazing.
I think Descent is gonna be the next like series of stuff that I
Acquisition.
just because like I have Kickstarters coming out next year, and I've got other stuff coming, but like I don't know, this app, man, I'm being for real when I say this Mansions of Madness app is awesome, and I'm gonna be pretty upset if they don't add new content soon. You know, like new things, because they already have an update for the Descent app. Why can't they do an update? Because there's really not something that adds the tiles for the old stuff, and I have like all the old tiles, so like I can
have you
imagine.
added it into your game or whatever?
Not yet,
I heard that some of
but
the
it's really just characters and monsters, though.
I've heard that some of the other I heard that the first one and the last one don't, but I heard that the other two do add some of the app. But you played the second one with that enabled and it didn't add any of the tiles at all?
I have to check it out, but I'm excited to play the game solo.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't had to add any of the old tiles either, which is
Yeah.
actually super interesting to me because if it doesn't add the tiles, why do you even need to actually buy the figures? Because the tiles is the main part of like buying the expansion or getting those new expansions that they're coming out with. Otherwise, you could just use the tokens that have the monsters on it and just use the character cards and just use a different.
Yeah,
monster.
just use the tokens, because you really only need the figures on the map to track where they are.
Yeah,
All the rest about the monster is on the app.
And the only
The app,
other thing that you really need is like, who's got the higher horror value? Well, obviously the bigger monster has the higher horror value. Who has the higher escape value? Obviously the bigger monster has the harder escape value. So
yeah.
it's not that hard to figure that stuff out. And they sometimes have special abilities on the bottom and tell you how many dice they roll when they're trying to break through a barricade or something. But you have all those tokens.
That fish thing, though, is not as easy to kill. It has like a life of like 8, and it hits for like 2 or 3.
We were hitting it
Because
for a while. You know the life count changes on the number of players in the game.
Does it make it easier or harder?
Yep. Based on the number of players, is the monster's hit points change.
So the more players, the higher the hit count, I imagine.
Yep. So like when you're playing solo, you fight a monster. It's not that exact same monster. It actually changes the values for that monster.
That
be able to
makes
fight a
sense,
lower player
because
count.
you only have 2 characters, and they're going to spend their only action to fight the monster if they have to.
But that's another thing that you couldn't simply do without an app, With the app,
Yeah.
it's just like already in there. It's like, the cultist only has 3 hit points when I'm playing with 2 players, but when I was playing with all these other players, they had like 8, or like 5.
Yeah.
So it's like they expect multiple people to jump on them here, but in this situation, they expect just one person to be fighting it.
We need to do that. Next time we play, we need to make like 2 groups. We need to make like a Death Squad group where they pick the characters with all the weapons, like Joe Diamond and all them, get out the guns, and then we need to pick an Explore and Puzzle group.
Yep.
And the Death Squad group, they literally go and just wreck shop.
I'm about to say, isn't that what you do anyway, right? You either have strength or you have lore, right?
Yeah, but then like we typically spread apart and then only come back when something terrible's happened. I'm talking about like dedicated group, like, there's a monster, okay, let's go. Like they're not worried about exploring, they're worried about killing everything in the way.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that sounds just kind of fun. Like, I don't know. In real life, no, I don't want to be part of the Death Squad group. But, like, for game-wise, I'm thinking, like, that'd be kind of hype. I'm going in with my guys. I got the shotgun. Let's just blow it up.
I would definitely rather be the spell and puzzle group, just going around searching the
Spells
stuff.
are terrible.
Really? I love the spells.
Bro, they hurt you, even if you do it successfully.
I know. I mean, they drive you insane, but, I mean, it's the price you pay for power, right?
Yeah, so I'd just
I've
rather
actually
not...
had ones that are good. Like, it just depends on the one you get and how poorly you roll on it. Like, if you roll good, like, I've had ones that are like, good thing on this side, flip it over, roll good thing again. Like, oh, now you're focused. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, yeah, it's a good game. But, yeah, I guess I'll turn the stream off now because we, once again, are talking about Mansions of Madness. If you can't tell, we like that game. At least me and Rob do. We didn't even
Mansions of Madness,
we didn't even give
Descent,
Matt a chance to talk about it. We
and
just talked
Imperial
about it
Assault.
so much.
Those three